In 2026, let's talk less about crash diets and impossible resolutions, and let's focus on these 5 realistic health tips that will actually improve your health in 2026. I'm Dr. Anu Sidhu, and I am a family practice and a lifestyle medicine doctor. I am also the proud founder of Spring Monarch Primary Care, which is a direct care practice here in Houston, Texas. If you want to learn more about my practice, just check the captions below. All right, let's dig in. When we talk about health tips that really improve our health, we've got to start with movement. But when we talk about movement, I really want to talk about movement with joy and movement that fills your cup. So we want to talk less about exercise guilt and more about finding activities that you actually enjoy doing. If you find that activity you actually enjoy doing, you're more likely to do it. So if your friend really loves dance cardio, but you don't like that, then pick something else that you actually enjoy doing, like maybe strength training. The other thing you can do if you're not used to movement and it seems overwhelming is just start with movement snacks. So even just walking 5 minutes after your meals can have a huge impact on your glucose. Just getting outside and having a 10-minute walk in the sunlight can have a huge impact on your overall mood, your sleep rhythm, and all kinds of benefits. So starting with something you enjoy doing and then a movement snack in small little bits can be super helpful. Our goal is 150 minutes per week to really lower that blood pressure, lower your risk for heart disease. But you can slowly build up to that 150 minutes a week if exercise is not something you're used to doing. When you do exercise, you can do something like pairing it with something that brings you joy. So listening to a podcast that you enjoy, listening to an audio book that you enjoy, working out with a friend can all be things that make you want to keep coming back to that exercise. All right, number 2, when we focus on getting healthier in 2026, we want to talk about nutrition. And when we talk about nutrition, I mean just making tiny changes that can have huge impacts. Number 1, we've got to lessen processed foods. We really want to focus on whole foods, less ingredients, and you want to really be able to recognize what that food originally was, okay? The second thing you can do is really structure your plate and structure it for success. What I tell patients to do is draw a line down the middle of your plate. On one half of the plate, put all your non-starchy vegetables. On a quarter of your plate, put your protein, and the other quarter of your plate, put your starch. Start by eating your non-starchy vegetables first, and here's why. Because those non-starchy vegetables are full of fiber and full of nutrients. And as you're eating it slowly, your stomach and your brain start to communicate that we're getting nutrients, and you start to feel full. Then you eat your protein next, and that's when you really start to get full. Your body's like, all right, now I've got the nutrients, I've got the fiber, I've got the protein, we're kind of getting to a good place here. By the time you get to your starch, you're less likely to overeat that starch because your brain has already gotten signals that we're already getting good nutrition. So minimizing processed foods, setting your plate up for success are super easy ways to get more nutrition. When you're building that plate, don't forget to also try to make it look like the rainbow. So try to eat as many different colors as you can. And if you want to go one step further, we encourage people to touch at least 30 plants per week. And the good news is herbs, spices, teas, all that counts in. So if you can minimize processed foods, build your plate for success, make it look like the rainbow, and try to get as close to 30 plants per week, you are doing a great job of getting more nutrition in 2026. The next thing we want to talk about, number 3, is sleep. You've got to protect your sleep like it's a prescription. I used to have a professor at med school who wore a hat that said sleep equals efficacy. And what that means is that if we don't get people to sleep, nothing else will work. The blood pressure pill won't work, the walk won't work, nothing will work. People need sleep. Sleep is not a luxury, it is a basic human need. So protect that sleep. No screens an hour before bed, no caffeine about 8 hours before bed, not doing any extra stimulants throughout the day are super helpful. But if you want to have good sleep, it starts with the morning before, okay? And what that means is you've got to wake up on time so that you can go to bed on time. One thing that is super helpful in getting good night's sleep is getting sunlight within the first hour that you wake up. So I tell patients to go outside and move in the sunlight within the first hour of waking up. That can look like yoga, gentle stretching, a brisk walk. But what happens is when you go outside, the sunlight hits the receptors in your eyes and it starts to set your circadian rhythm. From there, you've set the circadian rhythm. If you're a caffeine person and you have 1 cup of coffee, caffeine, whatever, that's fine, but you really don't want to have anything after that first cup because the half-life of caffeine is actually 5 to 8 hours. So if you have caffeine at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to impact the quality of your sleep later in the day. And the next thing is you want to minimize screens before bedtime. You've heard that over and over again, but I'm sorry, the screens do impact the quality of your sleep. So focus on sleep and everything else can get better. The fourth thing we want to do for our health is really manage our stress. And managing our stress is not eliminating stress. It is not getting rid of the stressful factors in our life completely. Stress is normal in the acute phase. It's chronic stress that makes us sick. There's some evidence to show that even acute bursts of stress can actually be good for us. But the chronic stress that goes on and on, day after day, year after year, are what make us sick. So what you want to do, what we call is sort of closing the cycle. And what I tell patients is, here's an example. So you're driving home from work and you've been sitting in traffic and it's like the worst and you're just so stressed and so worked up. By the time you get into the driveway, you get out of your car, you go inside, the kids are loud, dinner needs to be made, you're in a rush, you make dinner, and that was stressful. Then you got to get the kids to bed and they're all over the place and that was stressful. And then it's time for you to do your nighttime routine and you jump into bed and that was stressful. There's no breaks in that stress. And so a good way to go about it is close that cycle of stress. So when you've been driving home and you're super stressed with all the traffic and you get into your driveway, just listen to one more song that makes you happy. Take a few good deep breaths before you go into your house. Take a little walk up and down the street and then go into your house. Nothing more than a couple of minutes can really close that cycle of stress so that you are prepared for the next thing that comes at you. Other things that are super helpful are meditation and mindfulness. There are lots of apps out there that can teach you to do that, but starting mindfulness and meditation can really help you pause the thoughts and really help you focus on the here and now, and super healthy for the brain. All right, number 5 is strengthen your social connections. And here's why. Loneliness affects health just as much as obesity and smoking. Yes, that is true. And we are one of the most connected, disconnected societies in the history of time. People are feeling more and more lonely than ever, more and more isolated than ever. So it's really, really important that we encourage people to start making good, healthy social connections. And there is no courage without vulnerability. So yes, it feels odd to reach out to somebody that you haven't spoken to in a while, or going to a new mom's group, or joining some new chat, or whatever it might be. But understand that just doing those little things are really going to have a positive impact in your health. Maybe ask a friend to go exercising with you, try a new exercise class. The truth is that even brief, positive social interactions can be helpful. So, going back to opening the door for someone, saying good morning to someone on the street, talking to the person checking you out, just saying, how is your day? Those brief, small social interactions can have massive positive impacts in our brain. Making good social connections that make us feel rooted into our community are good for our brain. And just connecting on a human and social way is important for our human brain and can lead to a healthier 2026. All right, so we have talked about moving more, eating more with intention, protecting your sleep, managing stress, and making social connections. These are all small, evidence-based ways you can impact your health in 2026. If it feels overwhelming, here's what you need to do. Just start with one thing that looks the easiest. There's a saying that says, choose your easy and then work harder than anybody you know. So look at that list I just gave you and what looks like the one thing you're like, yeah, that one I can do. Pick that one thing and work on that. And once you've got that under your belt, then go to the next easiest and then the next easiest. And by the time you're done, you're going to be through the whole list and you're going to feel better. If you liked this topic and you want to hear more, like so that I know, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any videos. Please share this with a friend who you think needs to hear about these easy tips for 2026. And I will see you guys in the next one.